Hello, welcome to my channel. I hope you enjoyed today's video. You might get something from it, but I'm working with paste again and I don't think I have a handle on it. Yesterday's painting wasn't a success either and I scrubbed it off. You can see it here, and I've got the original sketch beside it, and I'm using this tub of paste that I got, and I'm going to do the background entirely in paste and the roses and hydrangeas as well. Some of the leaves may not have so much paste, if anything, in them. I could have used gesso on my canvas to cover up this mess. It's a primer and it gives you a surface, like a brand new surface to work on. But I thought, well, I'm working in acrylics, I may just as well go over it. And I wanted to try a paste background. So I mixed up paste with French ultramarine blue and white, and I think I added some yellow in there for a greenish colour, and I spread it on with a palette knife. I think if I were doing a landscape, this would make a great sky with clouds, and it just looks like clouds, doesn't it, as I spread it across. There's lots of potential here, I feel. But as you can see, it was covering up what was on the canvas very well, and I do think that you could paint over your old acrylic painted canvases that you didn't like, the ones you don't like and you want to reuse, with no trouble, without having to use gesso. I do think that gesso gives you that lovely blank page feeling, and so quite often when I'm using an old canvas, I will gesso it before I do anything else. And you can't use gesso over oils. I think there's probably a different type of primer that you can use for that. I haven't really looked into it because I don't use them very often. I used to paint in water mixable oils all the time, and I usually just scrape those off and repaint without doing anything else. I find some of the backgrounds when I scrape off are just perfect for what I want to do anyway. So, but I do like the paste in this context, using it as a background. I think it gives you something quite interesting. I'm going to do the tabletop using raw sienna, among other things, and probably will add alizarin and some raw umber in there as well. I do find using the paste that it takes quite a lot of mixing, and it does dilute the colour somewhat. So, and perhaps it comes in different colours. I hadn't thought of that. I just grabbed the white one off the shelf, but there may be other colours. I did turn it upside down to finish off the bottom bit, and I'm adding some alizarin crimson to give it some interest. I find with tabletops they need a little extra. You can't just have one blank colour there. It's boring to the eye, so I usually add something, and in this case alizarin crimson and raw umber, but I've also been known to add French ultramarine blue. I like to use the transparent colours because they allow the other colour, the original colour, to shine through a little bit, and it gives you sort of added depth to the painting. It just makes it much more interesting. I made a bit of a mess as I was turning it over, so I fixed that up. There's not much you can't do with acrylic paint. I do find my background isn't as soft as I usually make it, and I do like the background to be well blended, but it's okay. I'm going to use a 3/4 inch flat to put in my flowers, the base of my flowers. I've got 3 roses there, you can see in my sketch, and I'm going to try and put these roses in the same place. I haven't put my vase in, which is something I usually do first, and I find working with a different material makes me a little discombobulated, and I just have to hope it gets better. I wanted to make the roses 3 different colours, and somehow they all turned out a similar colour. I don't quite know what happened. I do find trying to paint roses in acrylics is a little more difficult than with water mixable oils, which is my favourite medium to use. I do find that it blends right on the canvas when I'm using the oils, and it tends to be a little more opaque when I'm working in acrylics. I have to work a little harder to get that delicacy that my oil roses have. And if you see any of my older paintings of roses, they're very delicate and fluttery looking, and it's because they're painted in oils. I apologise if you hear the dogs barking in the background. They're a bit upset today. We've had a lot of activity out there, and I don't seem to have much painting energy today, and this is not looking good, I've got to say. I think the final picture, I'm okay with the final picture. It's not one of my best rose paintings. It's not delicate enough. It's not natural enough. But it turned out okay, and I'm willing to show it to you. Let's put it that way. I'm just putting in the lines of the reflection. I'm pretending this tabletop is a shiny one that throws up a reflection. I might do some videos using water mixable oils just to show you the difference. I do find them easier to paint flowers with. As I said, the colours mix right on the canvas, and you get a sort of translucency about the petals, which I really love. When I'm painting flowers, I put the base colour down, and I don't worry about which brush I'm using. I'm usually using a flat brush anyway. I put the base colour down, and then I put the petal strokes in after, and I might use a different brush depending on the petal shape. For roses, I almost always use a flat. For the hydrangeas, I'll come in with a round, because a round gives me that floret shape, the 4-petal floret that hydrangeas have, and I can get that better with a round. The way I paint is to use 3 values of the same colour, a mid-tone to start off with, then I add a shadow, and I usually use a translucent paint for that, and then I use a more opaque colour for a highlight. At this stage of the painting, I am okay with where I have my placements, and I know it will get better from here. It's something that it's sort of, I call it the teenage phase. It's a growing phase, and you have to give it a little patience and a little time, and something wonderful will happen at the end. When I'm painting petals, I pull the stroke in from the outer edge of the petal in toward the center. I do that with roses, with hydrangeas, there go my dogs again, just about anything that I paint in the way of a flower, and also a leaf too. I pull from the outer edge of the leaf in toward the center vein, and I almost always use flat brushes. I love to use a flat brush. I feel I could paint with a flat brush more easily than anything else. For the petals that we don't see the entire petal, we just see the tip of it, I use a sideways swipe, and I sometimes, or quite often, will go in and add extra highlight to those sideways swipes. And because they're the part that catches the light, and we see them more easily then, they stand out a little bit better. When you're painting with acrylics, it's much easier to correct a mistake. I don't worry about mistakes at all. I've painted out whole entire areas of my paintings that I haven't liked and repainted them. If you're painting with oils, it's a little more difficult to do, and I haven't even tried other media, so I couldn't tell you what it is to use gouache or, well, I do know watercolor, and it's much harder. You have to leave those whites for your brights, and there are all kinds of rules about painting in watercolor. I think it's one of the most difficult things to do, which is why I love painting in acrylics and oils. As you can see here, I'm still using a flat for my hydrangea petals. I get a flat in my hand and that's it. I'm off to the races. I don't know why it is. I have a hard time changing up my brushes during a painting. I get stuck on one. In this case, I'm using a 1/4 inch, or it might be a 1/2 inch flat for the petals, but I do change to a large round as we go on, because the round gives me the pointy tip to the petal, which I don't get with a flat. I'm adding colour of the hydrangea into the vase. I like to add whatever's in the top of the vase. I like to get that colour in the vase. I'm showing the table and I augment that a little bit as we go on, but you have to be able to see through the vase. And the thing that I've left out at this stage, which shows you how difficult I'm finding painting with the paste, I've left out the stems, so I have to go back in and do those. I find that white dulls down as it dries, and I usually go in and reinforce that several times over the course of a painting, just to get that extra brightness that you want, that sparkle. I've added a little blue to the titanium white to give me that reflected light on the edge of my vase. The light is coming from the right, but you still get the light coming out through the other side of the vase. It's just not as bright. So I'm hoping the blue does that. And I'm pulling the stroke around the vase because I think it adds the roundness to the round vase. That's how I do it anyway. I'm sure there are other techniques to get that. I think that's what works. And I have a little trick too. I put in the reflection of a window. I think that makes the glass look more glassy. I'm hoping it does anyway. It usually works. I use raw umber to give me the shadow under the vase. That sets it on the table, otherwise it's sort of floating in midair. Don't forget that shadow. I felt that the vase was beginning to become opaque. I'd lost the tabletop in the glass. And so I went in and added that with raw sienna. I think I used a little alizarin crimson as well. But I just put little touches of it in so that you could see the tabletop through the glass. You have to do things like that to make glass look transparent. You have to be able to see through it. So you have to make sure that background is there. I show you around, but then I change my mind and decide to put in some shadow on my leaves, and I use a flat brush for that. But as I say, I use around to put the hydrangea petals in, just to get that pointy tip. I mix primary yellow and titanium white into my pool of green and use that for highlights. I don't mix the titanium straight into the green because the green's a bit on the bluish side. I like to have a warmer highlight. So that's why I add the yellow to it. But it's a matter of personal taste, I suppose. I add a little of the green into the tabletop just to show you that the leaves are reflected in the tabletop too. Here I'm reinforcing my highlight with titanium white, just straight titanium white. And it will dull down a little bit, but I think this is the last time that I do it. I don't know why it does that, a chemical thing I don't understand. But I usually have to reinforce my highlight 2 or 3 times over the course of a painting. For the stamens, I go in first with something quite dark. I just dab it on, and then I go in with a highlight over the top. And I usually use raw sienna or alizarin crimson for the base, and then add some titanium white or even a little primary yellow, and sort of dot that over the top, not too much, and that gives me the center of my rose. I feel I'll have to do these roses in water mixable oils one day soon, just to show you the difference it makes and how the paint works altogether differently. And you'll see for yourselves. Here's where I put the reflection on the table on the wrong side of the vase. The light is supposed to be coming from the right, and the reflection should show behind the vase. It goes through the vase, and of course I did it the wrong way round. I might not have pointed that out, but hey, I do hope somebody gets something from my mistakes. Here's where I bring in the round brush and paint the hydrangea leaves, petals rather, which are usually in groups of 4. I haven't seen them any other way, but I haven't looked at that many plants, so I really don't know. But I always paint them in groups of 4. I think they look nice. I like to see those little florets, and I use a Q-tip for the center, or I think in this case I used a small round brush for the centers. And I don't make much fuss of them, and I don't dot every single floret. I just do 4 or 5 in each blossom. I added a little more colour to the shadow side of the roses. Not much colour, and I wasn't very adventurous in this painting. I didn't break out all my other tubes of paint to see if I could do anything to liven it up a little. I think the paste really threw me off. I haven't got this down pat. It's something I need to work at, but I feel it has a lot of potential, and I feel it could really add something to my work if I could get a handle on it. So I will be doing more paintings using the paste, and I'll try and be a little more adventurous with colour next time, because this is a little on the faded side, is a nice way of putting it, I think. Well, it didn't turn out too badly. However, it's not my favourite painting, but I was working with something new, the paste, and I feel I can do better, and I feel I want to do something more with this. And before I give up on it, I'd like to do a few things in paste. I think the paste makes the rose petals rather heavy, and that's not without its charm in some other painting, but I don't think I've captured anything charming here. And it's something I have to practice at. Let's put it that way and leave it at that. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give me a like. That helps the algorithm find me and promote my paintings and promote my channel. And I'd very much appreciate it if you could do that and subscribe. And to all of you who have already subscribed, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Bye for now.